us know what you think about that one, because I'm like, the direction of travel is making me really uncomfortable at the moment with jury service, with not talking to journalists, with elections being cancelled, postponed. I just got a bad feeling about this one.
Yeah, when sort of each of these things individually, maybe sort of you could explain away with an excuse or otherwise, but all together starts to paint a picture, doesn't it? But let's return to this election story.
Yes. OK, let's talk to a Reform UK leader of Lancashire County Council, Councillor Stephen Atkinson. Stephen, you've just heard what we were saying about it there, feeling very uncomfortable about the general direction of travel that things are going in at the moment. I don't know if your council is one of these that's involved, but what do you make of it?
No, we had elections this year and huge changes in Lancashire. The Conservatives fell from 46 councillors to 8, and Labour fell from 32 to 5. And this is what's going to happen in these elections. So, in my opinion, the government are running scared. And you lose democracy one small step at a time. You know, Christopher's just talked about jury trials. These fundamental rights that we have they've been removed that weren't in the Labour manifesto. And this is a dangerous time because people feel very frustrated that their voices are not being heard. And in some cases, these councils, it'll be 8 years before there's been an election, because what's not being pointed out is that the shadow elections, so the existing councillors continue for another year. So I think the fact that, you know, the Secretary of State said these were going to go ahead, the fact that the Minister in the House of Commons said they were going to go ahead, and now this statement comes out on the last day before Parliament ends, where they can't be challenged, is symptomatic of a cynical attempt to deny people democracy.
Reminiscent of a controversial memo in September 2001, a good day to bury bad news.
Yes,
but what the government say here, of course, is that this isn't sinister in any way, shape or form. This isn't politicking. This isn't because they hope that the support for reform, or indeed to a lesser extent the Greens, will go down in the next year or two while we wait for these elections. They say this is because they're reorganising local government. The lower tier is going to be amalgamated into the upper tier. There's no point in electing one of these councils that's only going to serve for about 12 months before it's abolished. What do you say to that?
It'll be 2 years. There's only Surrey where it'll be 1 year. It'll be 2 years for the others, if they can do 20 million people in 1 year, which I don't believe they can. So when they cancelled the elections last year in those areas, they said it was for devolution. And now they've cancelled devolution for 2 or 3 years. So they're finding another reason, which is local government reorganisation, which is separate to devolution. It's kind of find any reason you can. But the big test here is for Kemi Badenoch. You know, James Cleverly was clear this morning that these elections should go ahead. Kemi Badenoch needs to come out as leader of the Conservative Party and tell those county council leaders, those leaders of those district councils, that these elections must go ahead. Otherwise, she's as bad as the Labour Party and should be tarnished with that same brush.
I mean, we have heard from many Conservative, when we were covering the story yesterday, many Conservative councillors saying, we're ready to go ahead. There's nothing to stop this happening. And we've had many councils saying that. I mean, obviously, they do have the choice. They can do it if they want to. They don't have to. But most councils are saying, we're ready to go.
Well, there's another thing here. The gold principles that the Blair government brought in said you shouldn't change elections within 6 months. This was after catastrophic elections in Scotland. And the key principles were that they must be predictable, announced in good time, and handled in a way that protects confidence in democracy. That's not happening. Because I've been told by Labour leaders that these conversations with Downing Street have gone on for weeks and weeks and weeks, whilst these conversations are happening and ministers are saying something different. So I think there's a real problem here, and it's appalling. It really is appalling. But what the minister did say, which I find strange, is that parish and town councils can go ahead. They're in the same places as the district councils. Got the same polling booth, the same count, but you're stopping one from the other because somehow they haven't got capacity to do it. This is ludicrous. This is nonsense.
Well, that is an absolutely fascinating point. Stephen Atkinson, leader of Reform UK on Lancashire County Council, thanks indeed for joining us. A really, really interesting discussion there.
Yeah.
There's nothing more important than keeping your money and your identity safe online. And with so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. But this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GB News viewers. ExpressVPN is offering up to 75% off, plus 4 extra months free. That's top-level security from just £2.49 a month, and you're covered by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code now. Remember, when you're online, you are often sharing personal data, so hackers can steal your information, your passwords, your photos, and your bank details in just seconds. But ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. So why choose ExpressVPN? Well, it couldn't be easier to use. With just one click, you are protected. And ExpressVPN uses military-grade AES 256 encryption, which is the same standard trusted by the US government to guard their classified information. With their new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely. Live chat support is available 24/7, and it typically connects you in under a minute with a real person. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 months extra for free. Start protecting yourself today with ExpressVPN.
Indeed, and 10 million voters face having their local elections delayed until 2027.
Well, that's after the government offered over 60 councils the chance to push back elections due to changes to the organisation of local government.
Here's what the Local Government Minister, Alison McGovern, had to say about it.
Many councils across the country and of all stripes have expressed anxiety about their capacity to deliver a smooth and safe transition to new councils alongside running resource-intensive elections to councils proposed to be shortly abolished. They have expressed concerns about the time and energy spent managing elections to bodies that won't shortly exist, only to run an election a year later.
Well, last night, Nigel Farage provided this response.
Basically, the Labour government have said to 63 county councils and local authorities, if you don't want the elections to go ahead, darlings, just tell us and we'll cancel them. Up to 8 million people could be denied the vote. Now, this is all being done under the guise of local government reorganisation. But just think about here in Essex. Last year, the county council elections in Essex did not happen.
Yes, indeed. So what to make of this developing row? What to make of the government seemingly running scared from us, the voters? Let's talk to political editor Christopher Hope on this one. Christopher,
Yes.
I mean, you know, the papers today, Labour's running scared of us.
Yes.
That's literally the headline on the Daily Mail.
Labour would say it's not them running scared, but the councils themselves who are asking for more time to get ready for this government, this local government shake-up that the Labour government has imposed on them. 13.7 million people in these 63 councils, 9.96 million voters. Nearly 10 million voters may not get a vote at these May local elections next year. But look who controls them. Labour control nearly a third, 18 out of 63. The Tories 9, Lib Dem 7. No wonder you heard Nigel Farage there saying they're trying to stop Reform UK's advance. These May local elections are vital for Reform UK. The party's got a head of steam built up behind it after last May's elections this year. 120,000 people have signed a petition organised by Reform saying don't delay these elections. And Farage himself says only dictators cancel them. The Tories say they won't allow it to happen. James Cleverly says the Tory position is clear. These elections should go ahead. But if a Tory council wants to delay, what will Kevin Badenoch do? I mean, it does seem to serve the main parties, but not and ill serve the challenger party, Reform UK, and maybe the Greens too.
It seems like they're sort of hoping that the surge in the polls that we've seen from Reform and to a lesser extent the Greens will sort of die down by the time these elections finally happen, if they do happen. But this is all about reorganisation of local government, so say the government. Will these councils be abolished in their entirety, i.e., will these elections simply never happen?
No, they will happen. And the confusing thing for viewers and listeners might be when they vote in local elections, you're voting for a county council or a district council, and that can confuse people what on earth they're doing. But there is, in a sense, this government is running away from transparency by everybody at the moment. We can't have these 4 mayoral local elections, elections they're not having, we know that. We may have as many as 63 being delayed from next year. The mayoral elections will be held in 2 years' time, these in a year's time. And also axing the right to a jury trial by Magna Carta. And where I work, we're losing access to the government at various press briefings we go to. Normally we can go to 2 a day on most days when Parliament sits. That's been cut to 1 day, and instead there'll be press conferences and briefings. But these briefings I go to are important. They have no time limit on them. You can ask whatever you like, repeatedly, follow-up questions, understand what the government's doing. We're losing some of that access, and that's not great.
And that sounds very dry and political, but for people listening and watching at the moment, that is basically journalists from social media and the main newspapers asking questions of the government via a spokesperson. So basically, it's the people putting the power to account, and they are cutting down on them.
It's anything we see that worries our viewers and listeners on the Your Say feed or the Twitter feed or the website. We should look at the comments below the articles. Anything that's bothering them, I can then take and raise, often twice a day, with Number 10. That is being cut back. Now, Number 10 say they want to bring in other social media people. They want to bring in TikTok people, maybe, influencers to ask whatever they like. There'll be televised briefings with ministers involved. But my concern is there'll be only agreed questions. You know from the previous 2 press conferences Rachel Reeves has done, she hasn't called GBNews at all. I've been now trying to get a question into her, and she won't call me.
And this is the thing that people perhaps don't understand about the behind-the-scenes, off-camera briefings that journalists get. Unlike the on-camera briefings, where very often it's one question, no follow-up. The politician cannot answer the question at all, can completely avoid the subject, as often the Prime Minister does in Prime Minister's questions. At these private briefings, it can be backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, and very often we can be hoping to speak to you on Downing Street, but the briefing's going on for so much longer than anyone expected because there's the back and forth.
There's a big issue, and I can say things like to you and Tom or Dawn, well, the PM spokesman denied 5 times to say they wouldn't be axing elections, for example, and the idea that they won't repeat or say something which is obviously going to happen or may happen, that leads to an understanding of where the government is. So we lose that, or some of that access. It will carry on in part, but a lot of that, or some of that access is being lost. That is a problem. Why are they running scared from transparency, not just the voters?
Christopher, you've been in politics for a very long time. Have you ever experienced a time quite like this, where it does feel like the government has such a distance from the voters, the people that they should be working for?
I can't remember one so early in the life of a government. When a government wins a big majority, they often try and shake things up. They try and move things around. And when I was the chair of this group called the Lobby System, I ran this operation representing the journalists to the government back in 2019 when Boris Johnson came in. They tried something similar, and it all fell apart when COVID happened. This may not happen, but we're expecting these changes to go through in January. I think they need to understand there's a feeling that they're sort of messing around, I think, with GBNews viewers and listeners. They worry about why they can't vote when they want to. Why are they losing a right to a jury trial? Why are ID cards coming in? Why are journalists losing access to ministers? I think it has a bad smell about it, which I think the government should address in the new year.
Well, we'll have to keep a close eye on this because, as you say, previous attempts to shut journalists out or whatever it might be have somewhat disintegrated. So we'll have to follow this one closely.